Drivers, start your engines! The Lapped Traffic Podcast has brought you over 300 shows, driver and media interviews, awesome stories and entertainment, and one of the coolest fantasy leagues around. Get ready for another exciting season. Sit back, relax, and try not to get lapped. Now, here is your host, the Professor, Brendan Crown.
Oh, what is up, Lap Traffic Nation? Welcome to episode 340 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. Yes, I am your host, the Professor. I am beyond excited to be back with all of you for another jam-packed show. If you haven't checked out last week's episode 339, we kicked off season 9, and then that means you missed Jeff Gluck. So if you haven't checked that out, go back, check out episode 339. Jeff and I talked about the state of NASCAR. We talked about his poll, and we got ourselves ready for 2025 that is about to kick off this weekend. It was a great conversation, and if you missed it, like I said, go back, check it out, give it a listen. It's a great way to set the stage for everything that's coming in the wild world that is NASCAR. But now, on to tonight, episode 340. We've got another jam-packed, awesome lineup for you tonight that I can't wait to dive into. First up is going to be none other than Dustin Albino from jski.com. We're going to be talking two of the most exciting things happening in the NASCAR world right now, the Clash from last weekend, and of course the Royal Rumble. That's right, I was there. We're mixing it up, motorsports and a little bit of WWE. I'm really excited to get Dustin back on. If you've been listening for any length of time, anytime Dustin's on, you know we're talking some wrestling. We'll also be taking a sneak peek at what's coming up in 2025 from the NASCAR season perspective. We're going to talk all the new changes, new faces, everything in between. We're going to preview the 500 coming up this weekend. Things are going to be pretty good this year, I feel, especially from a storyline perspective, at least. Who knows about the on-track racing? But there are so many stories to follow, and we haven't even dropped the green flag for the 500. So we've got that. We also have, making his debut, Garrett Smithley is going to talk about his season. Garrett's been in the game for a while, and we're going to get his take on things, how things are shaping up for him as he gets ready to kick off the 2025 season. And if that wasn't enough, we've got ARCA driver Isabella Robusto, who is going to be on the show. She is going to be an up-and-coming star in the ARCA series, and can't wait to get her insights as well. Now, going to switch gears for a moment. Fun little update for you. Maybe, I don't know. If you're not following my separate TikTok channel, so there's two TikTok accounts, right? Because as if I don't have enough stuff going on. There's the Lap Traffic handle. But I created a new handle called Life of the Crowd. And now may be the time to get on board. So over the weekend, I posted a video. And so going into the weekend, I had like 48 followers, if that, maybe, on this TikTok account. And I posted a video that, I guess it kind of went viral. I don't know what the flat line number is for views to say something went viral or not. But as of recording, it's got over 400,000 views, over 37,000 likes, over 1,200 comments. I'll be honest, it was a politically motivated post, so you may or may not like it. That said, obviously it came with a lot of love and a lot of hate, but it also came with a lot of new followers, and it's been kind of a weird roller coaster that I'm going to see if I can keep the viralness going, if you will. So if you want some non-NASCAR fun and excitement, go check that out. Also, this weekend is our son Alden's third birthday on the 16th. So we, fun-filled weekend with his birthday and Daytona. So that's going to be a lot of fun having family and friends over. Time is flying by. I remember bringing him home Daytona weekend, and I remember watching the Xfinity race from the hospital with him. So all good things there. And then also later on tonight, before we close things out with Lap Traffic Fantasy, we've got Aaron Studwell back. He's got a new an update to his weather website, RaceWeather.net. He'll have the forecast for us for the 500 and all of that good stuff. So lots happening tonight. I'm pumped to dive into it all with you. So let's get things rolling, and let's get Dustin Albino from jski.com back on the line. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making his 19th appearance on the show. If you're a diehard NASCAR fan, you've undoubtedly read his work. He's delivering breaking news, in-depth analysis, and top-tier storytelling over at jski.com. I am very excited to dive in the Clash, the Royal Rumble, the 2025 season ahead. Joining me on the line from jski.com, it's Dustin Albino. What's up, sir? How are you?
The hell of an introduction, man.
Thank you. Thank you. ChatGTP is awesome, dude.
Yeah, hey, we do have a lot to talk about, though. So it's been a busy off season. It seems like NASCAR never stops, which is a good thing. So we're here to talk about it all.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And so for those that have been around for a minute, Dustin's been on 19 times, and I think all 19 times we've probably talked wrestling. That's probably what got us connected first and foremost, is seeing each other's wrestling posts and like, dude, we need to talk wrestling together. Let's do it on air.
Probably, and there's such a crossover, and I'm sure we've said this and you've said this, but there's such a crossover between like racing and wrestling. So I think that's why you see a lot of the superstars at the track, and then vice versa, NASCAR drivers going to wrestling events. So yeah, and there's a lot of crossover between fans as well.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Just makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So let's start with the Rumble, man. So it was cool. I got the opportunity to go. And I got the opportunity to go with press credentials, which was really, really cool. We ended up buying tickets because why not? We're already down there. We ended up going to SmackDown on Friday night. So back-to-back wrestling shows, which was awesome. I've never done that before. I have now been to 3 out of 4 of the big fours. The only one left to check off is Survivor Series. So my cousin and I we've got that, we got our eye on once they announce where the next Survivor Series will be, to see if that's a feasible task to undertake. But very cool experience. Downtown Indy was awesome. Been down there a couple times. Have you ever been to Indy?
Oh yeah, plenty.
Yes.
4 times for NASCAR. It's a great host city for any kind of sport, any big sporting event.
Yes.
That downtown area, everything is just right there. So I love Indianapolis.
I do too. I'm a big fan of it. So a couple takeaways just before we get into the actual event itself. Because I know you've been to WrestleMania. You were in
2 WrestleManias, and I've been to 1 Rumble. It was in 2018 in Philly at the Wells Fargo Arena.
Okay.
I'm curious to hear your experience. This was your first Rumble?
This was my first Rumble. Yes.
Yeah. So I've only been to 1, and like I said, it was in 18. And there's nothing like the Rumble. Like whether you're watching from afar, when you're watching at home with friends, maybe making a little prop bet.
Absolutely. Yes.
About which wrestler comes out where or what number you guys pick. So there's really nothing like the Rumble. It's one of my favorite events of the year.
I am with you. The one thing I wish, and this was the one downfall, right? There's pros and cons of going to an event as a fan, so to speak, and pros and cons going as a credentialed media member, right? And so the one thing I was the most excited about, was building myself up to get chills over, was hearing the buzzer in person. I wanted that loud ring. I wanted to hear that. And I didn't piece it together till we got there, was that the press box soundproof, just like they are for NASCAR. So you could hear the crowd, you could hear the fans, but it was nowhere near, obviously, like if we would have been sitting in the arena. They pumped in the audio too from the broadcast, which was cool. And the nice thing was, if it was a 1 second delay, that was a lot. So it was synced up very well, which helped. But yeah, that definitely, I wanted to feel that, but again, not going to complain about being able to go as a media member for it. The one thing I wanted to ask you about, like, did you go to the superstore that they set up, kind of a thing? And what was your experience with that?
So I'm not sure if they did the same thing when you went for the Rumble as they did in Mania. They kind of go all out for Mania. It's called WWE World. It's through Fanatics. It's new last year in Philly. That was the first time that they did it. But there's a ton of activations. They have a ring there. They have a bunch of different setups, whether gear from the past, like the Attitude Era, or they had a Bray Wyatt display. They had a whole bunch of displays. And then obviously they have meet and greets with some of the wrestlers, and back at Mania they had a big stage where the wrestlers would come out and do interviews. So it was super cool. That was a fun. If you're a wrestling fan, you got to experience a Mania weekend.
Yes.
And on top of that, talking about the Rumble, I think you got to experience a Rumble as well, because like you were saying, with the countdown, the buzzer, that's so cool. When you get to, I know you didn't get this chance because you were in the press box, but to count down from 10, 9, and just so forth.
It's so cool.
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
No. So, all right. So they had the Super Center thing set up, but not to that level, right? So they had they had a separate spot that was for obviously the kind of like the Comic-Con type thing, to where you pay for a ticket to get in and go to see whoever you want, right? And then they had the store part. They didn't have the ring and the memorabilia displays. So we got into town Friday. We got in about 3:00, and we drove and parked and went right to the Supercenter. And we waited about 20 minutes to be able to get in to go and buy merch. So Saturday, we're trying to kill a little bit of time. We'd let's go see, I'll go spend more money if I must, right? And dude, the line, there was no rhyme or reason to where it was going, how it was going. You could have stood in line, moved, and not even gotten to, it was so crazy day of trying to get in there to go buy merch. I am so glad we went the day before.
Yeah, that was a good decision. I'm kind of twofold on this, because similar experience. We drove down on a Friday for Mania, and obviously, people for Mania and for Rumble, but it's easier for Philly, big airport on the coast, where people are flying in from overseas. Or Indy, that's a little more difficult because it's in the middle of the country. But similar experience. We drove down on a Friday, but the difference here is we went to the Superstore just like you did, and the line is, as you were saying, it's long. You can't even see how long the line is.
Yeah.
So thankfully we went on Saturday. It was still busy, but I had a connection to WWE that got us in.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. Yes. Let's see what else before we get to the actual content of the event. This is what I was going to say. So the WrestleMania I went to was in Detroit, obviously, WrestleMania 23, and that was well before it's town takeover, if you will, and before they're bringing and doing all that kind of stuff. So I know they also, with the bids for it now, is even crazier and all that kind of stuff. So obviously the big WrestleMania 3 was in Michigan, WrestleMania 23. I'd be lying if I would say I wasn't going to shed a tear if WrestleMania 43 is not in Detroit.
Of course, but I have seen reports that Indy is the leading candidate for 43.
Which I'm okay with, because dude, the drive from Detroit to Indy is 5 hours of nothing. Dude, it is so bad.
Just
flat, corn open. You don't know if you could tell me I'm in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky. It is the same. There is, thank goodness Google Maps said, welcome to Ohio and welcome to Indiana. Otherwise, there is no difference in the landscape. I'd go to Indy definitely. There's no doubt. Especially just because of how much of a spectacle it has become. Like, WrestleMania 23 was big, right? Every WrestleMania is big. But it is just must see. It's like the Super Bowl. It's like the Daytona 500. Your casual viewers are tuning in just because they know how awesome it's going to be.
And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger every year, no matter where they take it, whether it's, maybe eventually international somewhere or if it stays statewide. We do know one that is coming to Indianapolis here in the next 9 years or so because of the 10-year agreement that they have, where they have to host a Rumble, which they did, a SummerSlam and a Mania. So there's one coming.
There is.
It's just when is it coming?
Yes. All right, let's talk about the event itself. We had some surprise entrants. My cousin and I were talking. We're like, man, only 4 matches. You got to figure, hour for the women's Rumble, hour 15 for the men's. You got the Cody match. Like, all right, that's going to go at least 30, 40 minutes, and then the tag match. That that really just was like, let's get things going here. I'm glad they opened with the Women's Rumble, but you saw a lot of people going to the bathroom during that tag match.
I heard that from a couple of people, a couple of podcasts I've listened to. That's unfortunate, but there in an extended show like you said, it's only 4 matches. But when you have 2 matches that are at least an hour long, this year even longer, there's got to be something, right? Like me personally, as a diehard fan, like I am glued to my seat unless I have to go to the bathroom, and it's immediate. Like I have to go. But I'm not going to go get snacks. I'm not going to get drinks or anything because I don't want to miss any of the action. Like you paid your money to go, so go watch the show, right?
Right. Yes. Go during the video highlight that we've all seen 9 replays of over the last 4 or 5 Raw or SmackDowns.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But aside from that, like, I don't know what your take was. I thought it was a great pay-per-view, and really none of the pay-per-views in the last couple of years really have been misses. Like they're all high-quality content.
It was great. And it was great even with the swerve that I was disappointed on, right? Like, so going into it as a fan of the sport, I wanted CM Punk to win. I love where that's going from the story perspective. I love the Seth Rollins angle. I love the Drew McIntyre angle with it. Like, I wanted Punk. I was going to be okay if they even set up a triple threat match somehow with the 3 of them. Like, I wanted Punk to win. And then when Punk, McIntyre, and Reigns all kind of got eliminated around the same time, and it was down to Logan Paul, which I was really annoyed that he was the 30th entrance, by the way, and we can get to that. Logan Paul, Uso, and John Cena. I'm like, all right, well, they're obviously giving this to Cena. Cool, he deserves whatever he wants, like Triple H said in the post press conference. So okay, cool. And then it was that, oh shit, did that just happen? And they gave us that swerve that, like, at the time, I'm like, no, at that point, I wanted to see Cena to be able to be a part of even bigger history. But that's short-term thinking. I think knowing 5-10 years from now and be able to say I was at Jey Uso's Royal Rumble win is going to be even bigger than that. We just haven't gotten to that level yet.
A good way of looking at it. And you look at Uso and really, over the last, it's been almost 5 years now where he's been a focal part of our television screens with the Bloodline storyline.
Yep.
And they've been building him up. He's got a great entrance. He's got a great catchphrase. But a lot of fans think like that's all he is.
Yep.
And maybe his movesets aren't, the best. But they've been giving us a story with him, and they've been taking it along for the journey. So
and he's over. He's over.
That is the definition of over.
Yes.
I like swerves. So I was, and going into it, like you thought either Cena or Punk, like that. Those were the 2 options.
Yeah.
So I am perfectly okay with Uso getting the victory because it is probably the biggest swerve in a Rumble and I don't know, a century.
Time. Yes, right. Yeah. Like we knew Reigns was going to win. We knew Lesnar. Like it was. I would say there's been some predictability. This was not a predictable Rumble.
Right. Like. Well, we thought it was.
We thought it was. Yes.
But that's the best part of it. And I guess that's my point too, like the last, 15, 20 years, like maybe we don't know who the winner's going to be, but we know it's between a couple of guys.
Yes.
I don't know. On my list, Uso probably would have been like 10th.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And, and so to piggyback off that, let's talk about the women's real quick. I love the women's division. It has come so far, and it's incredible. And I love Charlotte Flair. I love her character. I love what she's done for the sport. I love everything. But the second they said Charlotte Flair was coming back, I mean, that's the predictable, right? Like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm okay with them giving Charlotte Flair a title run. I'm okay with it. But let the Rumble be, in my opinion, the reward to someone that's paid dues over the last 5 years, like Uso. Like, give Charlotte Money in the Bank, because Charlotte Flair with the briefcase, like, that's got great promos. That's got great everything written all over it, to where she could still get her Mania moment, whatever the case may be. But I just kind of feel like all of that work, everyone put into that 60-minute match, knowing what the realistic outcome was going to be on that, kind of took away from that a little bit.
You're predictable. And her character, like she was away for a year and basically 2 months, but like her character's the same.
Right.
Like they can't, unfortunately, they can't book her without being in the title hunt. And that's unfortunate for her, because we heard it on Raw that Monday, the Monday after the Rumble, like she's getting booed up a storm. And unfortunately, she's trying to make it a real life story, like how she's overcome and persevered from an ACL tear, and they weren't having any of it.
Having that, no. Let's. I want to save the Cody Rhodes KO match for a minute. Surprise entrance. We got Trish Stratus, Alexa Bliss, which was awesome in the women's. Obviously, the biggest men's surprise was Joe Hendry, which was a great pop. So cool to see. What were your thoughts on the surprises? Was there someone that you kind of thought maybe was that didn't?
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants AJ Lee, but I just don't see it happening. Maybe another year or so. I thought Becky would come back, Becky Lynch.
Yeah, I was with you there, and I wanted AJ too. Like, could you have imagined? Granted, I knew she probably or obviously wouldn't have won if she came. But if she won that and Punk won the men's, like, oh my God, that would have just set up one hell of a storyline. Like, that would have set up like a mixed tag match with Seth and Becky. Like, I mean, there's 6 months worth of matches between that, Yeah,
you could tell some great in-depth stories there, because I don't think we're done with Seth and Punk yet either.
No, kind of like Ms. Maurice Cena Bella, like the angle they did.
Yeah, that was another surprise. Nikki Bella being number 30, and that's where I thought there have been reports that maybe she's reportedly coming back for some sort of run. But when it's down to 30, you're thinking it's Becky. She's been out since May-ish. Like, we're getting to Mania time. We're in that season, so she's got to come back eventually. But looks like they put it on hold.
Yes. So I'm glad you said that. So honestly, as great as the two Rumbles were, both 30s were kind of disappointments with Nikki Bella and Logan Paul. Like, we knew Logan was going to be there. Like, I guess save 30 for a surprise entrance. Whether they're going to win it or not, at least get that last pop, I guess, is and I get how they built the match, in terms of, I loved Tenda and Rey Mysterio starting it off. They built that up, and, they did a great job telling a story through the men's Royal Rumble match. I really feel like, in terms of building some feuds. I assume the Drew McIntyre fuming backstage is a work kind of a they're doing a great job storytelling. But that just left me with nothing, knowing that he was still an entrant left in the Rumble.
Yeah, it is unfortunate when the same thing happened a couple of years ago with Cody Rhodes, the first year he won. Like, they had a big package for him. He knew he was coming back, similar to Charlotte this year. The only difference was Charlotte wasn't 30, and that year Cody was.
Yeah.
When you know that someone's coming back, or in the match regardless, and they're 30, it does take away from that element of surprise.
Absolutely.
Which is unfortunate, because like you said, you want that one last pop.
Yeah. Yep.
But we didn't get that. So
No.
I mean, it is what it is.
It's okay.
I think
It's
regardless,
still
we
great.
have two
Still
good
great.
winners. Yeah, it is great.
Yes. All right, let's talk about the Cody Rhodes Kevin Owens ladder match.
Brutal.
Dude, that exceeded expectations to so many levels. And Cody Rhodes just comes off as the ultimate mega babyface, right? Like, he is the definition of babyface champion. And Kevin Owens, textbook antagonist, right? So that's great. Here's the thing. All of the promos leading up to this, like, I knew they were going to put on a good match. But I could not buy into the fact that, they're no longer friends. Couldn't buy into that. Like, nope, sorry, not buying it. And I'm not even saying I bought into it during the match, but oh my God, they beat the shit out of each other. And I freaking loved it. Like, when they did the spot to where officials ran in kind of from both angles and were checking on everybody, like, after about 10 seconds and no one threw up the X, I knew it was part of it, but it was still not knowing for those 10 seconds that bought me even more into that match that I loved. And then at the end, I mean, I literally thought Kevin Owens' neck was broke the way it was sitting in that rung on the ladder. Like,
that was a hell of a bump.
Dude, A+. A+.
And we know Kevin Owens, personally, he's one of my favorites. Like, he's so entertaining. He can make a bad story good.
Yes.
He can make a good story great. And that's what I think we've seen here. And he takes he takes a lot of bumps, a lot of bumps. And his bump card is pretty full, I would imagine. So, and particularly at the Rumble, like, he's always in the championship match, always loses. I don't know. I hope he gets at least one more run with the belt.
It's funny you say one more runs, because that was a topic of conversation across me, my cousin, and these two other guys from iHeartRadio that we were sitting next to, as well as Chris Van Vliet, which was really cool. I got to take a picture with him. Cool dude, like, very welcoming of, kind of, a full sidetrack here, and I'll get us back on real quick. Kind of like for me with NASCAR and, technically kind of being a media member and walking into media centers not as often as like you, the Jeff Gluck, Bob Pockrases of the world. Like, I'm grateful for the opportunity and want to be as respectful as possible to everybody that's in the media center, knowing that people cover stories a lot more in depth than I do. And if I get a chance for a question with somebody, cool, great. If not, I'm not here to step on toes. I'm just here to be a part and thankful to those that are welcoming of me. And, so that's exactly how I walked into the WWE press box. There are people here that do this a lot more, like Chris, for example, right? Like, Chris is, the Bob Pockrass to WWE, right? And, went up to him, wanted to introduce myself, told him, hey, I'm NASCAR crossover. He loved it. We shot the shit for 5 minutes, took a picture, and it was great, So that's the impression I want to leave when I'm doing something like this. So I say all that to full circle back to just the type of response that can leave on me, just not even being a fan kind of a thing,
Yeah, with like another media member that is very well respected. Yeah. I mean, I can even think back, personally on my side, kind of transitioning maybe into NASCAR now, as if we're going to talk some Daytona coming up.
Yes.
But yeah, when I was in community college, I was trying to, get some advice from people. So I'd go to Watkins Glen, I'd go to Pocono, but I stopped Bob Pockrass, I stopped Alan Cavana, I stopped Dustin Long, just get some advice on, how can I take this to the next step? And, when people take time out of their day and they give you some advice and then you follow that advice and it pays off, it's just great.
Absolutely. Yes. Let's transition. Let's wrap our wrestling talk with, obviously the way they set it up with Uso winning, leaves for a very, impressive, elimination chamber match. Just knowing who's going to be in that, fighting for that extra spot at the title. We very well could still see CM Punk. We could still see John Cena. There's a lot of ways they could go with that, which I'm very excited about. Same thing with the women's. Going into Mania, we're set up for a good few months here.
Cena's my favorite wrestler of all time. I obviously grew up in that era where, he was the top guy, he was the top dog. So this year is going to be pretty special to watch. I'm hoping to get to see him at least one more time in person. I think he's the guy that comes out of the chamber, especially with the way that, is how blunt, how forward facing he was in the post-show press conference.
Absolutely. Last wrestling point, I promise everybody. John Cena's very first wrestling pay-per-view was in Detroit. And this is even pre-Ruthless Aggression. He literally came out in like solid trunks, solid shorts, or solid boots. That was it. It was a Vengeance 2001 or 2002. The pay-per-view, the main event of that match was a triple threat between The Rock, Stone Cold, and Kurt Angle. That was his that was his very first pay-per-view. So I think it's only fitting his last pay-per-view should be in Detroit, but I digress.
We don't know his schedule. We know that. I know, he said that he's pretty much off for the next month, so it's going to be back heavy, it seems, probably in the build to Mania and then afterwards, to finish out his career for the final 8 months or so.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk some NASCAR. We're coming off a incredible Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. Place was packed, electric, great racing, even though we had really one dominant driver. But we had the type of racing that we wanted, short track racing. When does NASCAR take the sign of, hey, maybe we need to adjust the package that we're running at Bristol?
Which that can translate because it is such a different track. But, talking about the Clash specifically, I was there. It was amazing. I never went to the LA Clash personally, but just from seeing that, how big of an event that was, and it seemed more intimate because there's only 17,000-ish stands, grandstands. So, and those stands were really like, just a seat, and nobody was sitting in those seats. You were just buying to be there, and it was incredible. The atmosphere, the environment, it was. You saw, like, even in the last chance qualifying race with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Burt Myers getting involved with each other and everyone giving Ricky the finger. It was incredible. I mean, just the whole weekend. So more 2 thumbs up for NASCAR, and more events like that are better.
Talk about, since you were there, it's been since the 70s since we've been there. Was the facility up and ready for the fans that were there?
Absolutely. And I remember, so when I went to the first All-Star race at Wilkesboro in 23, I made a pit stop at Bowman Gray. And back then, because it's city-owned, NASCAR essentially runs it, but it's owned by Winston-Salem. You could get, you could go right up. You could go on the track if you wanted to. You could walk onto the track. There's no gates to get through or anything. So I say that to say, like, it's totally different. It's not the right phrasing, but it was a big change because you have all the vendors there. You have the garages in the parking lot right outside of the media center, which is used as the Winston State weight room for football. So
I heard about that. How was? I hear it was some tight knit quarters.
It was a little tight. Now, Winston State, like, obviously not a big D1 school or anything. So when you think of D1, like, huge weight rooms, magnificent facilities, and this was truly a great facility, but it was a little tight. But yeah, everything was up to par. NASCAR came in, they added safer barriers, they took out the guardrail that's been there since who knows when, probably since the track was built.
Sure.
They added some temporary scoreboards and sound systems. A lot of effort was put into this event, and it definitely paid off.
Sure. So I'm glad you phrased that way. So we've seen NASCAR put a lot of resources, and I'm talking about financial resources, into redoing tracks one-offs, right? Whether it's the Coliseum, whether it's Bowman Gray, whether it's, throwing down dirt at Bristol, right? Like, we see them putting a lot of resources into one-offs that aren't even for, well, I guess the Bristol dirt races did count towards the playoffs with that, because those were regular season. But I guess, what would you say to the fan, to me, that even sometimes wonders, like, why, if we have to go put all of this into one-offs, what are we doing wrong with the regular if we've got to go to this extent to draw attraction?
It's diversifying the schedule, really. And with the Bristol example, that was more of, it was NASCAR, but it was also Speedway Motorsports. And we did it for a couple years, and then we said, let's go back to the asphalt. And with Bowman Gray, like, even though you could call this a one-off, and I put that in quotes because who knows whether we'll be back next year or 2 years from now or whatever, but that track, that facility is going to reap the benefits of that for years.
Yeah.
Like, those safer barriers, to my knowledge, aren't coming out. The wall's not coming out because they had to redo all that. And that's putting money and effort into the weekly racing that's at Bowman Gray every week. So, if they can do, Kyle Busch had a great point. Like, if the Clash was made for something like that, he's fully behind it. And I think a lot of the drivers would be too, because they get a lot of their starts at tracks like Bowman Gray or Pensacola or wherever. So, if this event is something like that where you just move it around, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, and so for me, I'm with you there, because for me, as someone that, I don't care whether we're talking NASCAR, football, baseball, I'm not a fan of all-star, or I'm not a fan of the events that aren't impactful towards a championship. So I need it to be something different to catch my eye. Like all-star race at Charlotte, back in the day, I don't need to watch that. That does nothing for me. The Clash, different, cool. Yeah, I'm going to tune in to see what that's like. Bristol Dirt, yes, I'm going to tune in, see what that's like. This Bowman Gray, all of these things. That's what needs to happen for someone like me to want to watch a non-impactful race, to where I'll use this term loosely, the only thing on the line is money for the winner, basically.
You see the how I said diversify earlier, about how much the schedule has changed here in the last 5, 6, 7 years or so, where we're going to a race in downtown Chicago, which is fabulous. Yep. And, after this year, maybe that moves, and maybe we go to a different city, wherever that may be. And, you're bringing the action to the people instead of the people having to come to the action. So events like that are awesome. And I highly recommend anyone to go to that, yourself included. But, I don't know. Like, as far as the Clash, like, this was just a perfect event. It truly was. I didn't hear anyone say a bad word about it all weekend long.
I would agree with that, because I hardly saw any negative feedback on social media, which that's the epicenter of negativity. So when you don't see a lot of negativity there, or a big reduction, something right went on. So
and the action was good.
Yes.
Like, it was actually
absolutely.
It was a compelling race. Now the heats and the last chance qualifier, they got a little dirty, and you figured they would, especially the last chance qualifier. But the actual Clash, the main event, was great.
Yes.
Even though, the last 50 or so last 80 laps went green, but you had a compelling story with Ryan Blaney coming through the field from taking a provisional to chase down Chase Elliott, only for Chase to hold it off.
And
big story for Chase.
That justifies having the provisional race, right? Doing, that's why you have that. That proves the point, 100%.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. I'm all for events like that.
Yes. No, I'm with you there. Let's talk a little 2025 changes, things like that. Stuart Haas, doors closed now. How do you anticipate the team landscape changing 2025 and beyond? Charters still up in the air, all that kind of stuff.
The mind is how much change there actually is. Like, when you're at the Clash, you're trying to see all the new drivers and the new places, the new team members and the crew chiefs that have moved around, like Rodney Childers going to Spire with Justin Haley, and you just kind of getting acclimated to all that, because there is this year specifically a ton of change.
Check out jski.com for all the driver changes.
Check out JC. We got the team chart up. Go check it out on the Cup page. But But you know, I bring that up to say, like, there's a lot of pressure on some guys this year, like Chase Briscoe. He's getting the best opportunity he's ever had.
Yep.
You know, he told me with when he was with Stuart Haas, like when he got to the Cup level, really they're on the downturn. They're kind of on. He labeled it and termed it the struggle bus. So, you know, he's got a big year. Justin Haley, you got Ronnie Childers behind you as a crew chief, who's one of the best crew chiefs. That's a lot of pressure. Then you got teams like RCR, who last year with Kyle Busch went winless for the first time, you know, in his career. So a lot of key storylines are going to develop, and they should develop pretty early in the season.
I want to ask you, just because, you know, he's been on the show a handful of times. I love him as a driver. I love his personality. AJ Allmendinger, you know, Cup, off, broadcasting, Xfinity, Cup, Xfinity, back to Cup, you know, a lot of changes there, a lot of opportunity there. You know, where, you know, we kind of saw a little bit of a downturn, if you will, I'd say, for Kaulig Racing, but they did have, they turned it on towards the end of the Xfinity season last year. You know, where is Kaulig Racing at after that massive year in Xfinity they had a couple years ago?
Yeah, they would tell you that last year, Chris Rice would tell you that it was a disappointment across the board, whether Cup or Xfinity. You know, I know AJ got to the Final Four, but really all year was not a factor.
Sure.
Now, they did have Shane Van Gisbergen, who was an ace on road courses. So, you know, they still won, you look at it, 4 races last year between SVG and AJ. But as far as AJ going back to the Cup level, it made sense. I mean, really, if you look at it, like, it didn't make much sense him going back to Xfinity for last year, but you look for that's from the outside looking in. If you're on the inside looking out, like, you need financial support. And so they had a Daniel Hemrick who had some sponsorship, and then the 16 car, they rotated it through drivers who had sponsorship, and then maybe you would have some for AJ. So this year, I think they're getting back to the basics. They want to be competitive, and AJ's the guy.
I love that. I really do. Let's talk about the playoff format changes, lack thereof. You know, towards the end of last year and into the offseason, we saw drivers very critical of the way things played out with the championship. We saw Denny Hamlin very critical of things. Were you surprised NASCAR didn't make any changes? Do you think they're acknowledging of some changes? Maybe they'll make some going into 2026. You know, I guess are you a fan of the current format? Would you have liked to see some changes after now 10 years under this structure?
Yeah, so not surprised, only because you want to get it right. Like, if you're going to make a change, you don't want to keep making changes, right? So NASCAR said publicly a couple weeks ago that, you know, if they're going to make a change, they want it to be around for however long. So not surprised. And you need the driver's input, you need the owner's input, you need a lot of input too on what maybe TV, manufacturers, just everything's got to come together. So not surprised that there was no change. Also, there was a lot of noise that, like you mentioned at the end of last year, and truthfully, like, I don't understand it. Like, the format is the format, and it's whoever plays it the best. And that's been the case for 11 years. So, you know, whether the format was a season-long championship like it was for years, or whether it was the 10-race playoff, like, the format is the format. So for Joey Logano, you know, he just executed better than everybody. Like, I hate to, you know, say that if you're not a fan of him, or you didn't, you know, you're against my opinion, but I thought, you know, it just played out like it normally does. And sure, like Joey, you know, he wouldn't have made it had he wouldn't have made the playoffs had he not stretched his fuel mileage to 5 overtimes at Nashville. But it's the format. It's the same for everybody. That's my point. So it was a little frustrating just seeing all the noise last year.
So I've got 2 quick points to make to that. One NASCAR related and one non-NASCAR related, just to show that, you know, it happens in all sports, right? Like, you know, I look at... That's the thing. Like, say the Commanders get to the Super Bowl this year as the 6th seed, and they win the Super Bowl, right? Us
like,
Lions fans are really pissed off.
You would have been mad. But, like, oh, look at that story. That's a great story. But then, like, say Joey Logano wasn't even... Well, he was a 6th seed. Like, he was 15th in the regular season standings, but he was a 6th seed in the playoffs.
Yep.
So, like, I don't know, say a 12th... Blaney the year before.
Yep.
He was 12th seed in the championship going into the playoffs, and he won the championship. And there wasn't this, you know, a bunch of backlash. So I don't get it.
It was the 7-7 Giants that beat the undefeated New England Patriots, right?
Correct.
And the NASCAR comparison that I drew up with this, and I don't know, a couple of people told me I was nuts, but to me, during the 10 race playoff format before this current format, it reminded me of Tony Stewart's championship, to where he, pointed in to the 10 and then won like 5 out of the last 10 races, like that.
Yeah.
That's,
it happens.
Yeah, it happens.
How it counts. And Logano and the 22 team are masterful at that. You look at the percentage of how many wins come in the postseason versus the regular season. Like, the percentage is going to be higher in the overall percentage of his wins are going to be higher in the regular season. But if you look at percentages of 10 races, like, it's way higher in the postseason. So you got a master strategist in Paul Wolf. So on top of the pit box. So yeah, I personally do not get it.
Sure. I'm with you. All right, man. What do you got coming down the pipe? What kind of stuff you guys working on over at J-Ski as the season kicks off? What are you working on? And what are some early maybe predictions we might see from a storyline perspective?
Stuff coming up, and obviously it's Daytona week, so I got a interview with a feature with Justin Albino coming out this week, kind of reliving the championship, but also previewing how difficult the possibility of repeating as champion is. Really in-depth piece coming on that, so appreciate if you guys would check that out. And then I got fantasy all year long on NASCAR.com, so come play along. It'll be a fun year of fantasy. There's 3 fantasy games throughout the season, so it'd be really cool if y'all played along with me. Predictions? Do you want predictions for championship?
Let's do Daytona championship. What do you got?
Oh boy, dates. Honestly, predicting that they're both pretty tough. I think just because it's preseason. Daytona, I'm feeling a Ford for sure. Everyone's going to say Brad because it's he's due, but I'm feeling Austin Cindric. I think he wins again. He's really good on super speedways. This could change depending on how everything goes this week in Daytona with the duels and whatnot. As far as championship, I think it's Christopher Bell's time to shine. I think he has another breakout year, gets back to the Final Four, and stamps his name as a champion.
All right, I'm going to give you the I wants because like you, I have no idea, right? I want to see, especially coming off the winless season and knowing it's the one race that's eluded him, I want to see Kyle Busch get that 500 win. That's
20th year too. He's already tried 20 times.
Nice. That's the Daytona 500 I'm rooting for, which never in my wildest dreams would I've ever thought. I'm like, I want Kyle Busch to win a race, right? And then championship, I'd like to see Tyler Reddick. Just based on the couple seasons he's had, had a couple bids to get there. He's obviously got the Xfinity championships, but him and Christopher Bell, right? Like, they're the Xfinity class, right? Like they were the ones that were trading wins, 7 and 8 win seasons, so either one of those two would be really cool just to see that culmination and transition, just cause that's kind of when I started the podcast. Those guys were just getting going. They've both been on the show multiple times. Like to see either one of those get a championship would be just a really cool kind of pinnacle thing.
Yeah, and each driver, both of those particularly, have grown each year that they've been at the cup level. So I expect big years from both of them. Absolutely.
Well, listen, man, thank you so much for the time. We obviously always go long because we always talk a lot of wrestling, which I love. Thanks again, man. Are you going to the 500?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll be down in Daytona all week, so come say hi if you're there.
Excellent. I love that, man. Thank you again. Go check out Dustin's work over at jski.com, NASCAR.com. Thanks so much, brother. We'll talk to you real soon. Well, that was great to catch up with Dustin Albino. Let's do a little lapped traffic social media. Make sure you're following us and staying up to date on the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, Facebook, The Lap Traffic Podcast, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, all at Lap Traffic PC. Go check out my new TikTok account at The Life of the Crowd. If you've made it this far into the show, don't forget to leave us a review. We'd love to hear what you think, and reviews help grow and bring in some new listeners. You can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, You can even tell Alexa to play the Lapped Traffic NASCAR podcast if you want, and she'll do it. Don't forget, we've got stickers and koozies always up for grabs that are totally free. Just reach out via DM, email, the contact page on the website. However you want to reach out, you can, and I will get them out to you. Okay, let's keep things going. Since we don't have any racing really to talk about this week, since the 500's this weekend, let's get a Xfinity driver on the line. You probably know who he is. It's Garrett Smithley. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line. He's an Xfinity Series veteran. He's been grinding it out for over 15 years in the sport. He's got a huge heart on and off the track. This season, he is driving the number 14 car for SS Greenlight Racing. He's bringing a powerful mission with him on and off the track with Hire Heroes USA to support military veterans. Welcome to the Lap Traffic Podcast, Garrett Smithley. What's up, brother? How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm great. Daytona's coming up quick. I wish I had another month to prepare, but it's all good. It's all good things. It's been a super, super busy. I'll be honest with you. This is probably the busiest off season that I have had probably since I've been in the sport. So, which is a great. Busy is great, and I'm really looking forward to getting after it.
I bet, man. So, NASCAR is weird with its schedule, right? In terms of, all right, we start in the middle of winter for, most of the Midwest people and all that kind of stuff. So we go February to November. So we go cold to cold. And then, obviously, the holidays are busy, right? So even though you guys are off, I'm sure it's chaotic. And then, January's here and testing and meeting with the teams, getting the cars ready, all that kind of stuff. So even though it's like 90 days off, I'm sure it does not feel like 90 days off.
No, it certainly doesn't. And honestly, this off season, this really wasn't an off season. Everybody talks about that. It's just the non-racing time, really. I've told people over and over again that I'm honestly more busy in the off season than I am during the season, because there's at least a little bit of structure to our weekend. We know that we're traveling on the weekends. We know that we're going racing. Now in the off season, but until then, it's like, okay, well, I got my weekends kind of open. I'm going and visiting family for holidays. Sponsors have different obligations that we have going on. There's a lot of different things that we have to do. And then it's, for most guys like me, we're trying to put deals together, and we're trying to sell sponsors. We're trying to get new partners. We're trying to figure out where we're going to race. So all of that just equates to a very, very busy time. I've been doing some TV filming here and there, so that's been a lot of fun, kind of getting my feet wet there. So, but it's been good. But I will say I am absolutely ready to get in the race car. I'm ready to get at it Daytona and get this season rolling.
I believe it, man. You brought up, the whole, trying to sell sponsorship kind of thing, and I think, a lot of the casual fans out there probably think of that as being something the driver does in the modifieds and the late model series, where they got to go out there and hustle. But that's still the case for, you've been across all three series over 10 years, 12 years now. That's a common theme across all three series still, even in NASCAR. The drivers play a big part in their sponsorship.
Yeah, it's everything, honestly. For me, my dad, it's been well documented as of recently, but he's a pilot, he's a fire bomber, aerial firefighter. He worked really hard with 10 Tanker to put out those fires in LA. And he's been doing that for about 10, 11 years now, about the same time that I started in NASCAR in 2015. So I think he's got 1 year on me. So, so we didn't have the funding, we didn't have the budget to go past really Bandoleros. And fortunately, I've had some really great partners that helped me get to basically, every next step. And it's all about relationships. It's all about partnerships. It's all about how to grow their business, how to give them maximum ROI. And it's been a lot of fun for me. As much as I would love to just be a race car driver, it doesn't work like that, especially in my situation. So I've kind of relished the opportunity to learn business and learn how these businesses make money, learn marketing, and really just build my connections and build my relationships. And it's been a lot of fun doing that. I've had sponsors that have gone from sponsors to being absolute family. And it's been a lot of fun doing all that. And I know whenever the time comes when I get done racing, I know a lot about a lot of different industries and businesses. So I'll have my I guess I'll have my opportunity to kind of pick what direction I go from there.
That's awesome. I love that. Speaking of partnerships, tell everyone how everything came together with SS Greenlight this year.
Yeah, honestly, it was pretty wild and came together very fast. I really, going into this off season, was completely okay with running half the Xfinity season. I felt like that I had the sponsorship kind of raised and built up to where I could run half the season. And through a former sponsor, well, not former sponsor, but it's a current sponsor now, but a sponsor that had been with me really since the last couple of years, just kind of doing small stuff here and there. But they jumped on board last year, kind of feet first with some of the stuff that we had going on. And have grown that into a partnership where they kind of have some ownership in the 14 car. So Beth and Randy Knighton with Night Fire Protection, they started as just a regular sponsor in the sport, kind of grew. He had owned some teams up in the Pacific Northwest with the Busch North Series and or I guess the Busch West Series, whatever that was back in the day. Up in Washington State and up in that kind of realm of the country, he just has a huge passion for racing. And he had talked about ownership, and we had talked this and that, and I kind of brought this opportunity to him, and he said, well, let's talk about how to make it work. And he said, why don't we just go full on and do the full season? I said, well, it's going to take some money. And so we put together the deal and put that together with my sponsorship. And now all of a sudden we're doing the full season together. And they've announced BRK Racing, Beth Randy Knighton Racing. Beth is going to be the listed owner for the 14 car, which opens up the door for a lot of different things. But I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And for them to have somebody that's as passionate as they are about racing, and people that really, like I said, became kind of family to me. It's cool to do it together, and I don't think that I've ever been more excited for a season, maybe other than my rookie season, just because I was so wide-eyed and so kind of green and ready to go. It kind of feels like that. I have kind of new footing. It's kind of been a struggle the last couple of years to find a place that's called home for me. And I feel like that I found it, and hopefully we can have a good season and do this for years to come.
I love it, man. Hey, you're green-eyed, you're racing for Greenlight Racing, and we're going to go green flag racing here at Daytona, right? Like all signs pointing green. I love it. When you, talking about Daytona, new team, all that kind of stuff, you mentioned a busy off season. I imagine most of that is due to getting acclimated, new teams, crew chief, any sim time. What's been your off season prep getting ready for Daytona?
Yeah, it's, I haven't really had much of a chance to focus on the racing side, to be honest with you. I've been so focused on some of the business stuff and traveling. I think from Phoenix up until maybe the first week in January, or the first full week in January, I was pretty much gone. I wasn't home for more than like 2 or 3 days consecutive. So it was just a lot of traveling around. I literally went to all 4 corners of the United States just for one reason or the other. Ended up going to New York City for a wedding at the very start of January, and that was kind of the end of my traveling. So fortunately, I've used the month of January to stay put. There was an outside chance that I was supposed to be going to New Orleans for some pre-Super Bowl stuff this week with some sponsors, but I basically said, look, I've got basically like 3 weeks worth of work that I got to cram into basically a week and a half to get ready for Daytona. So I said, all right, I'm just going to stay home. I'm going to get this stuff done. And so to answer your question, I ran the Clash in the Cup Series at Bowman Gray. I did a very little bit of studying from last year at the Coliseum, what I could have done or what I could do since it was a whole new venue. And then I would say at the end of this weekend, I'll probably do a bunch of like qualifying runs on iRacing just to kind of get my mind right. And because we know we have to qualify on speed when it comes down to qualifying on Saturday and in a couple weeks at Daytona. So I'm going to get my mind right there and probably watch the race from last year and do some studying. But other than that, that's going to be my prep for on-track stuff. Most of the stuff has been off track.
I love that. And I got to circle back to what you said about, maybe going to New Orleans. Us Detroit fans thought we were going to New Orleans, and we got that proven wrong real quick.
Hey, listen, my agent, Philip, I'll give him a shout out. He's a huge Detroit fan. He's from Michigan. Once my Steelers got eliminated, I was rooting for you guys to go all the way. So I was pretty heartbroken just along with you guys when that happened.
We appreciate that. It's so weird how quickly you change your expectation, right? Like, we've been season ticket holders, my wife and I, for like 10 years now. And it's like, all right, we went because it was, something to do different. It was at the time, when we first got them, pretty reasonable price wise. And, as the years went on, SOL, right? Same old Lions. And then these last 2 years, as soon as you start winning, double-digit wins, your expectations change. And it's like, if you'd have told me 5 years ago, we'd be have the best record in the NFL and have home playoff games, oh my God, I'd be happy as hell. But no, I'm mad. Like, we were supposed to go, dude.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about these wildfires, man, and your dad battling and all that kind of stuff, using his own aircraft to assist the first responders. Like you mentioned, he's been doing this a minute, but talk how he got involved. I mean, there's got to be a lot of stuff behind the scenes, from both how you get involved with that, the dangerous level of things. Fill everybody in on that.
Yeah, so he worked for an airline company called World Airways, flying DC-10s and MD-11s for 20-plus years. I don't know the exact dates, but he worked for them for a long time. And when he was working for them, that's actually what got us I'm originally from Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area. So we moved from Pittsburgh to Northern Virginia, and then Northern Virginia down to Georgia. And when we moved to Georgia, racing was a lot more mainstream for me. So that's how I started racing Bandoliers and Legend cars. And he was always a big race fan. So his career actually helped me start mine. And so he flew for World Airways for a long time, and they went out of business, and he was kind of looking around, looking at some different options and opportunities. And somebody that he used to worked for this company called 10 Tanker, and they said, hey, we're looking for DC-10 pilots to do this firebombing stuff. And he knew about it, but didn't know a whole lot about it. So he kind of jumped feet first, and he got hired and has been doing it ever since. I think it was 2014 when he initially got hired, and was a first officer, rode right seat for a long time, and not a long time. I think it was like a year, and then he was quickly promoted to captain, and then promoted to flight instructor. So so he got into that. It's been quite a wild ride learning about it. It's obviously it's not your typical airline where you take off, you put it on cruise control, on autopilot rather, and fly to your destination and land. He is like, flying that thing from start to finish, all his flights, and he's got some pretty crazy stories, dropping that fire retardant 200 something feet off the ground at some of these fires. He's flown in Australia. He's flown primarily in California, but he's flown all over the country. Flew a little bit when we had the Gatlinburg fires, when the Blue Ridge Mountains were on fire. Flew down to Chile once. He's flown all over the place, and
wow.
He does have some crazy stories. And it's like I said, it's not your typical flying. He says he's yanking and banking out there, trying to get that. It's a 250 something plus passenger airliner when it's in the passenger configuration, that they're basically flying like a fighter jet. So it's pretty spectacular to see. It was cool for me and my mom to watch because, obviously the coverage when the LA fires were going on, the coverage was pretty wild. And we were actually watching some of the drops live on TV, tracking him on the computer, and then me and her were on the phone. So it was cool to see. It's cool that they're getting all the attention, but the biggest thing for us is that we hope that it just raises awareness to help stop these wildfires, because it's bittersweet for him. Obviously, he's making a living, but he'd much rather be sitting and not having to deal with it, and not having to deal with loss of property, loss of possessions, and loss of life out there. It's really devastating when it does happen.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. You mentioned he's up on it. I got to imagine it's pretty similar white knuckling to going into turn 1 at Daytona, like what he's doing up there.
Yeah. It's funny too how similar our careers are, just in the sense that when before he flies, he does a little walk around with his all the pilots do walk arounds before they fly. I kind of do the same thing. I don't have to, but I always kind of do a walk around when I'm on the grid. I look at the tires. I look in the engine bay. I just, before I get in the car, I just kind of look around, and then we have to be laser focused. We got to be locked in. We have to be 100% in what we're doing, or if we make a mistake, I'm hitting the wall for him. He's got to make sure that he flies safe, especially with those fires. So we're relying on a lot of radio control, or air traffic control, radio communication with his first officer, with his flight engineers. So there's a lot of parallels to to what he does, to what I do as well. Sure. And we got to have guts.
Yeah,
we got to do it.
And a heart and selflessness, right? And I mean, you talk about that type of a level of just wanting to help and be there for people, much like your sponsorship. We'll make a nice parallel turn there. Hire for Heroes, which is out there, working for veterans. I know that's a proud sponsor for you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Hire Heroes USA. We partnered with them late last year. We've been talking about working together for a number of years, and it just didn't materialize up until this year. And, we had this idea for this Race to Hire Heroes program. And so their mission is to help veterans transition out of the military and into the private sector. So what we're doing at these races that they're going to be on the car, we're doing it's a job fair, glorified job fair. We're going to have a little hospitality event for them. They're going to be out at the racetrack. They're going to do resume building, interview skills, networking, just basically helping them put their military skills into, working in like a regular job, a normal job, so to speak. So, and then, on Saturday, basically it's a big networking event, not only with them, but for, some of the companies that could potentially be hiring them. And then they get to go enjoy the race. So it's twofold, right? It's thanking them for what they've done, and, keeping us safe and serving our country. And then on top of that, helping them, with jobs and helping their families. So it's a really, really cool opportunity for us. We've got a lot of our sponsors that are helping out with the cause. And it's been great working with them and learning a lot about what it's all about, what it takes to get these guys and girls back into the private sector. So it's been fun learning about it, and I'm super excited, and I'm hoping that we can grow this thing for years to come, because I think it's a really, really good cause for sure.
Well, it seems like any veteran-related partnership within NASCAR resonates very well with the fans. Obviously, I'll die on any hill saying that NASCAR fans are the most patriotic fans of any sport there is. So I know the fans will gravitate towards that type of a partnership, and it's a great cause too, right? Like we hear so many cases of where veterans have, such a hard time adapting back to civilian life, let alone jobs. So that's awesome that, they're out there, trying to help acclimate back to civilian life. And like you said, the private sector jobs, that's incredible.
Absolutely. And like I said, I want to grow this program. I want this to be something that we do for years to come. And all of our sponsors have been very gracious and helping the cause and bringing new partners on. It's been really cool. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a moving picture for sure.
That's awesome, man. Listen, tell everybody where they can follow you and keep up with you on social media.
Yeah, across the board, it's just at Garrett Smithley. My website is being redesigned right now. We are getting merch that's in the works as well. I haven't had an opportunity to do merch in years because I have driven so many different cars, so many different ways, so many different teams. So I am super thankful and super excited that I'm full time with SS Greenlight and BRK Racing. With all of our partners, Trophy Tractor's back, Dozer Winch, dozerwinchparts.com. We got True Brands back. We just announced that they're back. We've got a lot of people that are supporting this year. We've got we've got a handful of races still open, so we're still trying to find sponsors. We're still trying to find partners to get to that next level. Right now, we want to go to the races. We want to make all the races. We want to really get nice, good point stays every single week. Obviously, starting strong at Daytona, one of my best tracks. So hopefully we can do that. And I'm super excited, super thankful for the opportunity. Shout out to Bobby Dotter for the opportunity. I've raced for him several times in the past, so this is going to be a lot of fun for us. We've been talking about going full time together for a long time, and I think the sky's the limit. And just looking forward to it, and hopefully everybody's cheering on the number 14 Chevrolet Camaro come Daytona.
I love it, man. Well, listen, hey, I know we went a little long. I appreciate you sticking around. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation and getting to chat with you for the first time. Hopefully it's not the last time that you're on the show. Maybe we can catch up with you mid-season or something like that. Truly enjoyed it, and best of luck this season and at Daytona, man.
Thanks so much.
Take care, man. We'll see ya. Well, Lap Traffic Nation, there you have Garrett. Great to get him on for the first time on the Lapped Traffic podcast. Let's keep it going with the driver interviews. We were full of ARCA drivers last week. We got one more for you this week. Let's get Isabella on the line. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making her debut. She's competed in late models and ARCA, and in 2025, she's going to continue to climb the NASCAR ladder. Not only that, but she's got a great powerhouse sponsor behind her in Mobile One. Welcome to the Lap Traffic Podcast, Isabella Robusto. What's up? How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming on. Before we get into racing and all that kind of stuff, how's the off season been? Has it been busy? Have you got to do anything fun before the very hectic racing season gets underway here in a couple weeks?
Off season's been good. It's longer than normal. Normally I'm down in New Smyrna today, kind of getting ready for late model speed weeks, but it's been good. Been on the sim a bunch, been at the race shop with Venerini and just getting ready for the year. It's going to be the first time in a while that I'm kind of solely with one race team. So it's a little different mindset going into this year than past years, but it's been good. It's made off season a little bit easier just knowing that there's one shop to go to versus 3 or 4. So
Absolutely. All right. So tell the listeners, your racing background, what got you into racing and what got you to ARCA?
So I started when I was about 5 years old. My dad and mom put me into a go-kart with my twin brother and ran and then got into a Bandolero. Ran that mostly at Charlotte Motor Speedway and Atlanta Motor Speedway, kind of for the summer shootout and the Thursday Night Thunder that they had there, and ran really well and won a bunch. And INEX ended up letting me kind of get a waiver to move up into the legend car a year early. Now I went up when I was 11. Now you can race them when you're 11, so it's a little bit different now. But at the time, you had to be 12, so I was able to move up kind of a year early after doing well in the Bandolero and winning a bunch there. And kind of did the same thing in the legend car when I was 11. The first year I kind of struggled just because it was the first year I didn't really test ahead of time before getting into a different car. So it was a big learning curve, especially with the shifting and having to learn how to use a clutch. And that went really well. I ended up applying for the NASCAR Diversity program, and in my second year of Legend Cars, I was able to go to their combine and actually got accepted into the program. I was 12 at the time when I got accepted into it, and ran a year of Legend Cars with them. It was probably one of my best years finishing wise. I think throughout the entire year, my average finish was 2.1. So that was a crazy year, especially to be kind of my first year with a real race team. And from there, I went into a late model. So ran late models with Rev Racing for 2 years, and that was kind of during COVID time. So it was a little weird. We only did 5 or 6 races a year just because of kind of the track shutting down, and no one kind of knew where racing was at the time. Sure. You couldn't really do much. So that was hard. And then I was getting ready to sign with Rev Racing in the NASCAR Diversity program again. And Toyota called the night before and said, don't sign, let's have a conversation. So the next day I talked with Toyota. They wanted me to join their team and basically race late models. So kind of the same plan, but almost doubled the races that I was going to do, and signed with Toyota. And that was 3.5 years ago now. So that was super exciting. I've always kind of looked up to the TD2 program. Always wanted to be one of their drivers, and to be able to be part of that amazing program even now after 3.5 years with them is amazing. And did a year of late model stocks, ran really well, finished second in the Hickory Track Championship, third in the Tri-County Track Championship, and had 31 top 3 finishes. So good year as well with them. And then the following year, I was set to race a whole bunch of different types of cars. So I ran the late model stock, the pro late model, both in Cars Tour. And then I was also going to run the GR86 and the GT4 car in SRO for some sports car stuff. And I got 4 months into the year, and April came around. It was a really good start to the year, had really good finishes, and I got into a crash at Hickory, actually leading the late model pro race with 1 lap to go, and broke a tie rod, hit the inside wall, really bad crash, and it ended up taking me out of the car for the rest of the year, all the way till the following year's February. So long time. It was about 10 and a half months in total that I was out of the car. So that was a change of pace for sure, but it was not from a lack of effort. We tried everything you can, but you can't rush concussions. So that was a hard lesson to learn. But then last year I was able to come back racing full time in February and ran the late model stock car and Cars Tour. I ran probably 90% of the season. Felt like it went pretty well. Could have been a little bit better, but was happy kind of at the end of the year how it went. And then finally got to make my ARCA debut a year later than planned, but that's okay. And felt really, really good in the ARCA car. Every time I got in it, we had really strong finishes, ran up front most of the races. So that kind of set me up for this year to where the plan is just to run full-time ARCA and hopefully go after that championship. So it's been a crazy whirlwind of a racing career, especially kind of the last couple of years being with Toyota. And I'm excited to get this year started.
Very cool. That's an awesome story, awesome journey. Venerini speaks highly of you. Obviously, Charles Kral speaks very highly of you. So those are the two driving factors that brought you and I together today. So that's awesome. So I got to ask, right? Like, obviously, female drivers, not the norm, right? And it's awesome to see more and more coming into the sport. You mentioned that you got into kart racing at 5. Not the typical, right? I hate to be stereotypical, but that's not what we hear or see the average 5-year-old girl wanting to do. Walk us through that perspective of things, wanting to racing. What was high school like, knowing like, hey, I'm going to race on the weekends? Like, that had to be different for you.
Yeah, the hardest thing, I think when I was younger was explaining to my friends at school just what I was doing, because I was gone so much, not just over the weekends, but that Wednesday, even Thursday, Friday, kind of leading up to the race weekends, we were traveling or at a different racetrack one day and went to another one. And after school, it was always head to the racetrack, go and practice or go and train or work with the coaches, whatever it might be. So I think the hardest part for me when I was younger was explaining racing to someone that doesn't understand racing.
Sure. Yeah, right. It's not the typical.
You always got the question of like, racing's not even a sport. Like, how is racing a sport and all that? And as I've gotten older, it's gotten a lot easier to explain, but kind of 6, 7, 8-year-old Isabella, it was hard to explain. And then also being really the only girl, there's a lot more girls in karting nowadays, which is awesome. And back when I kind of started, I really only remember one other girl that I grew up racing with, and that was really hard too. Like at the tracks, we always hung out together because we were kind of the only girls there. But I feel like I've always kind of fit in. Most of my friends now are guys, funny enough, because I'm always at race shops or always at race tracks, and
sure.
There's mostly guys there. But it's awesome to see when there's a female in the sport, whether it be on the marketing, engineering, even driving side. It's much better. I feel like it's getting there, but at the end of the day, I'm just there to win, and I kind of consider myself a race car driver more than a girl that can win and run good. I kind of just like to go with I'm a race car driver that can win.
No, that's awesome. I love that. That's a great way to put it, and that's a great perspective to give the listeners know. Like, hey, we did have to acknowledge that growing up, and it probably was a little hard to get people to comprehend that for sure. No, I love that. 2025 season, we're right here. Daytona's right around the corner. You mentioned sim. What else have you been doing to get ready for your full ARCA season here?
Full ARCA season. Off season has been basically planning to get ready for Daytona. The ARCA schedule is a little weird. You have 2 races kind of right out of the bat with Daytona and Phoenix, and then you have a big break between that and Talladega. So it's a little different mindset. You're kind of hurrying up to get the season started, but you're going to have a big break. So off season's really been focused on those 2 races, because after I'll have time to kind of focus on the next batch we have before the next break. And
sure.
Lots of sim, especially talking with my spotter. I'll have a new spotter at Daytona, and I've been working with him a lot, watching film, especially with Daytona. It's going to be my first kind of plate racing drafting track. So just figuring out the different call outs, the cues that I'll need when I'm on the track. So when the race starts, it's nothing too new for me that I have to kind of figure out. And then Phoenix was my first ARCA race that I ran last year. So going back there, I'm feeling confident, kind of knowing that I've been there before. So it's not a whole bunch of firsts. So spent a lot of time on the sim running through data from last year, just trying to get all of that kind of ready to go. And then on the physical and mental side as well, I've been working hard at the Toyota Performance Center, just getting all of my workouts in, kind of working on the mental side of racing. That's a huge aspect as well. So trying to get everything as good as I can and ready as I can before Daytona comes next Saturday.
Absolutely. You ran 4 races with ARCA last year. Did a couple ARCA East, ARCA West, and most of the legends, that kind of thing. More on your short track type thing. Is there a track that you're very excited to get to and go see for the first time outside of Daytona, right? Because Daytona, right? That's we all know how important Daytona is. But is there a track that you're really excited to go and run at this year?
Daytona was going to be my first one just because the super speedway being at Daytona, but doing the test earlier this year in January, we had our ARCA test out there. So I kind of got the first ride at Daytona experience already kind of out of the book or checked off. But tracks that I'm looking forward to would have to be the dirt track. I ran Springfield last year and it went really well, and it actually shocked me about how fun it was. So I'm looking forward to running both of them. The coin looked like it was raced completely different, so I'm excited about that. As well as the road courses, they're really fun. I love road course racing from my go-karting backgrounds, but Lime Rock seems like it will be a really fun track to go out and race at. And probably the top of the list would be Charlotte, hometown race. It's kind of like the first time that I'll be able to be in a NASCAR sanctioned race that's close to home, where all of my friends and family can come and watch and enjoy. And I think Charlotte's probably, other than Daytona, Charlotte's on the top of the list for sure.
Awesome. Very cool. Let's talk about your sponsor, Mobil 1. That's a hell of a sponsor to have. Obviously, there's the B2B side of things. There's the direct to consumer. There's the, oil and gas aspect that goes hand in hand with racing. How did you get connected with Mobil 1 to have such a great sponsor going into the ARCA series?
Toyota's a huge help, and they've been a huge support in getting me funding and sponsorships for the past 3.5 years. And this year I'll have Mobil 1 and Yahoo on my car again. I've had them on my late model and then also on my ARCA car the past couple years that I've run with Toyota. So I'm excited to have them back on the car again. And I just can't thank Toyota enough for the opportunity and support that they give me.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right, we'll wrap with this. You've been racing a long time. When you're not at the track, what does Isabella like to do to hang out and have fun?
Most of my time spent away from the racetrack and race shops is spent on school. I'm in college online, so a lot of my free time is kind of taken up by schoolwork at the moment. But when it's not, I love cycling. It's a big passion that I have. So I'm glad the cold weather is kind of moving out of here so I can get back on the bike and enjoy some rides outside.
Very cool. I love that. Well, listen, Isabella, thank you so much for coming on the show. We will definitely follow up and hopefully get you back on mid-season, see how things are going. Best of luck at Daytona and the 2025 season.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Oh, Lap Traffic Nation, there you have Isabella. Great to hear how she got started and all of that good stuff. I think last week I said I was done with like the 2-hour shows. This one may push that or get pretty close to it. We've got some weather business to take care of. Let's get the Dr. Aaron Studwell back on the line. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line. You can follow him at RaceWeather. It's been a minute since he's actually come on to do a weather forecast, and since it is the 500, what the hell? Let's bring him back on. You know who he is. Lap Traffic Nation, welcome back, the Dr. Aaron Studwell. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing well. What the hell? Thanks, pal. I like that. It's biggest race of the year. Well, yeah, it's the biggest race of the year, and we will have weather. So
we will have weather. Yes.
Yes, we always have weather. I look out the window and it's snowing here. So, yeah, there's always weather.
We're supposed to get 3 to 5 inches. Not sure if that's a lot or not, ladies. You let me know. Anyway.
Yes. Hey, we're getting 6 to 8. Now that's what they call a good date.
That's a healthy dose right there. There you go. Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. Nothing like a little. Oh
yeah, go ahead, take a drink.
It's only week
clean
2
your
of
mouth,
the show.
Clean your thoughts. Let's talk racing, sports, and start of the year.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to go. How the heck is it February, and how the hell is it 2025?
I'm telling you, man. Season 9 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. 2 shows in. It's nuts. It is nuts.
I know. You saw the thing with 9th year of fantasy. I'm like, what the heck? 9?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's the nice thing is the transition from what fantasy was the first year to what it is this year, and actually the last couple years, because the format hasn't changed. I really like where we're at with it. I'd like to have a few more players, but then I also, the more players, the more manual picks. Like I was hoping at some point I could have really automated this whole process with it, because it takes. I log picks in, at least I try to, as they come in throughout the week. Obviously, Thursdays are the cutoff. So Thursday between like noon and 5, is when the mass amount come in. But it probably takes me a good half hour, 45 minutes to log the picks. And then I do have the Excel sheet down pretty well to where I can get the points updated and all of that. So it's probably a 2-hour process start to finish. If I were to, wait until Monday morning to do everything, it would probably be about a 2-hour process.
We appreciate that. Now, and remind me, did it start on Yahoo?
No, I've always done everything manual.
Okay.
Yeah. It was the format in terms of, I think the first year it was just Cup, and you could pick a driver up to 5 times a year. Like it was really loose. Then we worked in the Xfinity series. Then we worked in trucks. Then we added, limits just to the Cup, and now we've got limits across the board. And I think it's as fine-tuned as it's going to be, having to do it manually and having the restrictions that I have. So, yes.
You probably get really familiar with lookup tables and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, no, that's beyond my scope. But I will tell you that ChatGTP is amazing for just about anything. So that is ChatGTP.
Yes, it is. I will agree with that. But I didn't really think about it for this. But yeah, I use it for some of our writing and say, hey, write me an email that says this, bang, go.
I don't think in the last, I'll say 6 months, there hasn't been an email I have drafted that I haven't ran through ChatGTP. I pay for like the middle package now. I've been using it so much. It's like $20 a month or something.
Yeah.
But no, it's great. I'll be honest. I've even used it for. I obviously use it for the catering and all of that. Like, hey, I'm gonna send out a mass digital flyer email targeting, like I sent one out the other day to the local high schools, advertising our food truck for senior all night parties, and did a thing like that. And it crafted me a beautiful email for that. Like it's phenomenal.
Very nice.
Yeah, no, I love it. So anyways, welcome back. Did you watch the Super Bowl?
No, I listened to it. I didn't have really a dog in the fight, and so I just said, hey, I'm going to deliver Uber Eats that night. It was good up until about halftime, money-wise. But, yeah, I listened to it. It's just, yeah, I've been with Philadelphia. I'm a Washington Redskin Commander fan. And with Philadelphia in, I wasn't going to cheer for them to win. And then I'm like, I'm kind of tired of the Chiefs winning. And it just didn't hold much interest for me. That being said, I did listen, enjoy the broadcast, but
yeah,
no, I was surprised by the magnitude of the result.
Yeah. Well, so like, being a Lions fan, right? Like this year, I would say I had the least. I did not make a single sportsbook bet on the game, which since Michigan's had legal sports betting online, like that's unheard of for me. And I think I had 3 square sheets, which is a way below the average for me. Like, and it's because the Lions weren't in it. Like, there was just such that hope. We had such a great year. Like, it was just, all right, can we just get into next year so we can, try this again? But the Lions are obviously going to be probably have a regression, having to get, a new offensive and defensive coordinator, probably going to lose some players, So, this was probably our best chance this last year, which, if it wasn't for the injuries, if Hutch isn't out, Anzalone isn't out for like, if we aren't on the ninth string DBs and corners, like, I think we realistically would have at least gotten back to the conference championship game. But we can what if all night long. But that said, I was rooting for the Eagles for 2 reasons. One, our neighbor's son-in-law used to play for the Eagles and is now on the coaching staff there. So they actually got to go. They went to the Super Bowl. Couldn't tell you. But anyways, I could not tell you. Could not tell you their name.
I had to ask.
That's a fair question. Like, I know their name, and I'm pretty confident that's not. I'm not sure who I'm. We
can just stop that here.
Yes. Yeah. Anyways, and the other reason why I was rooting for the Eagles was because I'll be damned if someone's going to beat Tom Brady for any type of Super Bowl record, and I wasn't happy with the Chiefs possibly being able to do that in 3-peating, because that was something Brady never did. And then I was also this is how bad I was. My thought process was going at halftime. I was like, okay, 20. Even if they come back, Tom Brady still had a bigger comeback. So with the Atlanta game, so I'm like, all right, whatever, it's fine. So those were my 2 half-ass reasons why I was rooting for the Eagles.
Now, so I'm ready to kind of move on. March Madness is coming up. And
March Madness, spring training.
I would just say that the latest round of NBA trades has actually gotten me a little bit more interested in the NBA.
Well, that's cool. Man, I haven't watched NBA basketball in a really long time. Like, obviously was a big Pistons fan growing up as a kid. When the Pistons 04 run, that was like the year I had turned 21, or all of our friends, like the group we were hanging out with was hitting the 20, so we were going out every night for Pistons games, and especially during the playoff run there. That was a really cool time frame. But yeah, I couldn't tell you last time I sat down to purposely watch an NBA game.
And for me, honestly, I'll just put it on, and it may be background noise, and then you hear something, you look up, and you see the replay.
Yeah.
I won't sit here and stop There's very little sports-wise that I'll sit here and stop everything else and dedicate. Michigan football.
Yep.
Commanders games. Commanders games. That's generally about it. Even if the Orioles are on, it'll be more background noise. It won't keep me saying, "Hey, I got to go outside and do something real quick," or "I got to go change the laundry."
Yep.
Or sit here and write a report or something. So
sure. All right, man. We teased that 2025 racing season's about to get underway here, Daytona. Before we get into the weather, what's anything you're looking forward to this season? Any predictions? Anything you're expecting to see out of somebody? What are you looking forward to from an on-track perspective?
And this is going to be kind of maybe not out of the blue. I thought the adding a point for fastest lap was an interesting perspective, and it's going to be Xfinity, and then by the way, this is Xfinity's last year in the Xfinity Series, or Nationwide, or Busch Grand National, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So we'll stay and we'll do that. Kind of just looking forward to seeing them back on the track. I found the Clash pretty entertaining.
It's really good. Yes. Yep.
And we're back on track tomorrow with practices and the duels. And honestly, the duels are one of my favorite nights. When I was working shift work when I was in Houston, I would specifically say I'm taking the day of the duels off. And when they ran it during the day or then they ran it at night, I'm dedicating my time to sit down and watch this.
Yes.
Especially when you've had it more than a full field.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to figure out who's going to be in, who's going to advance.
I miss the days of, 48, 49 cars showing up for the 500, man.
Yeah. It's just gotten to be so expensive. And on this force management side, you're talking to teams and on IndyCar, it's $10 million to $8 to $10 million to run a team on a 18-week schedule. So you even extrapolate that up, you're looking $20 million, which that's probably the budget for a mid-pack team where Hendrick is going to looking probably like 25. And it's become so expensive that it's hard for the Rick Ware. Well, Rick Ware is a little different now that they're factory supported. The Timmy Hills, the Carl Longs.
Yeah, absolutely.
To kind of pack up the truck and say, hey, we're going to go to Daytona and we're going to drop. I can tell you for one team that I was looking at, it was going to be $150,000 to sponsor for the 500, but they said we'll only do it as a package deal with the Clash. So that wound up being 185, and then I found out about it, and 24 hours later they were like, "Oh, we've got somebody in the car already." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, good for them. It was a person I know, and I'm happy for them." So,
yeah.
It's an expensive sport, and it's just hard to pick up and say, "Hey, we're gonna put all our eggs in one basket, and we're gonna race the duels, and we're gonna go home." And you're like, "Well, now what?"
Yeah. Especially if you think about it, you could take that money for that one race and maybe go run a local, smaller touring series or something like that for 2 or 3 seasons potentially on that budget.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Or you could run Xfinity as a low mid-pack car for 3 races.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. All right. Weather, we have it, technically when it's a beautiful sunny day outside, that's still technically weather.
It is.
It's just not, it's not anything that would make anybody upset. So,
right. Yeah. We want to have smiles. We want to have sunny faces, sunny dispositions, and sunny skies for racing.
Yes.
And I am going to do a little self-promotion here.
Please.
We did update and made the new RaceWeather site. So raceweather.net is now more mobile friendly. It was easier for us to get all 5 days of racing in these longer event weekends. We'll be updating through the week. It's very visually appealing. I think we've got to tighten some things up. We're still kind of ironing out the bugs, but the 500 forecast is up and ready to go. Will be updated. So this is when are you dropping this?
Tonight.
So we'll have updates starting tomorrow. Excellent. So yes, okay, those are my picks. Let me go to the other piece of paper. So we're going to start out tomorrow. It's going to be dry Wednesday and Thursday. Highs in the mid to upper 80s, lows in the mid 60s. I know it was really foggy there this morning. So hopefully that'll all clear up. Maybe some morning fog, but it should be good. Friday, chance of afternoon showers in Florida on Friday. But we actually have a cold front forecast to move through. So it looks like that first cold front's going to drop daily temperatures, highs in the low 70s, chance of showers. Saturday behind that front, sunny skies, 84 for midday temperature. So it looks great for the Xfinity race. We should be good for the truck race Friday night, and it'll be good to see everybody back on track. The duels will be fine on Thursday. Now we get up to the 500. Unfortunately, cloudy skies, high of 83, but we're watching the timing of a cold front to push through. As this far out, we'll see some disparity in the forecast. We'll keep updates both on social and the website. There is a chance of showers and thunderstorms. High of 83. 2 of the models that go out that far are actually showing rain in the afternoon, so it could lead to a late start. However, it looks really clear after that. It's a very fast-moving front, so we should be able to run all 500 miles or 500-plus miles, as we tend to go to overtimes at super speedways a lot. And winds will be gusty, starting in from the southwest, 15 to 25 miles an hour. Behind the front, it'll come out real quick. It'll shift to the northwest at 15 to 20 miles an hour, gusty at times. So we should be able to run all 500 miles plus overtime. We just make it a later start.
Excellent. And all right, let's see who your picks are. Who you got for this weekend?
I will start, and it's over on this piece of paper.
Nice.
I'll start with, I know. And you go to, hey, look, if I didn't have sheets of paper, I'd be sitting here scrambling.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. So I had to go back. I had to look at entry lists. I'm like, who's racing where this year? There's been a good bit of shuffling around. For the truck race on Friday night, I want to go with Tanner Gray.
Okay.
I'm pulling a rabbit out of a hat. We'll see how this goes. I want to go with Carson Quapple with JR.
Okay.
JR Motor. Yeah. Number one. And then young Ryan Blaney, who is, I'm not sure he's all that young anymore, but I want to go with Blaney for winning the Cup.
Solid. I like that. Good deal. See how you fare for your first picks for Lap Traffic Fantasy. Don't forget to email your picks, because I'll forget. I
know, and I'm probably not going to change my picks. I did what I normally do, and I'm actually, for the first time in a long time, these picks are early.
Yes.
Last year, I was scrambling around on a Friday afternoon. It's like, I'll get my picks to you before the race starts.
Right. Yep. That's all good. All right, man. Well, listen, thank you for kicking off the season with us, and I'm sure it'll be sooner rather than later that you're gracing the airways of the Lap Traffic Podcast once again.
Thank you so much, and we will be active on social. We've already posted. Check the website out, and if you like to advertise on the website, drop me a note, and we'll get we got to get Lap Traffic's logo on there, so I'll follow up with you after we hang up.
Sounds good, man. All right, take it easy. We'll talk with you soon.
We will. Take care. Have a great day.
See you, man. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, great to have the doctor back on. All right, it's time to close this thing out. Little Lap Traffic Fantasy to kick off the season. All right, we've got room still for you. If you want to come and play, shoot me an email, fantasylaptraffic@gmail.com, and get your picks in. We're picking all 3 series throughout the season. I will send you individually the rules. The rules are also on the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, under the fantasy tab. And we'll get things back to normal next week with standings, updates, all of that good stuff. Just a reminder, get your picks in by 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. Use the hashtag LTFantasy, and yeah, we'll get you going. We've got close to 100 players this year for our 9th annual Lap Traffic Fantasy League, with some awesome trophies on the line. I've got them all displayed on my podcast desk down here in the man cave, which is awesome to look at and see every week when I come down here. Well, almost every week when I come down here. That said, let's get to the picks. All right, Lap Traffic Fantasy players, the 2025 NASCAR season kicks off this weekend as we head to the iconic Daytona International Speedway, the incredibly massive 2.5-mile super speedway, renowned for its high banks and thrilling packed racing, which means the 2025 Lap Traffic Fantasy League also kicks off this weekend. Underdogs, are we going to see them? Are they going to get to victory lane? Could we get a Trevor Bayne from 2011 or a Michael McDowell from 2021? And could they clinch an unexpected victory? Chevrolet's been pretty strong at Daytona with multiple top finishes in recent races. Let's look at the Truck Series a little bit since it is Daytona. Matt Crafton wouldn't surprise me. Zane Smith wouldn't surprise me. Sleeper pick, maybe Andres Perez. On the Xfinity side of things, maybe AJ Allmendinger finally gets his 500 win. Cup side of things, who doesn't want Kyle Busch to get that 500 win? It's his 20th start. Or what about Denny Hamlin, a 3-time winner? I know Cancian would absolutely love that one. Okay, my picks. Truck Series. Going with the 75 of Parker Kligerman. In the Xfinity Series, the 00 Sheldon Creed. And on the Cup side, we're rolling with the 8, Kyle Busch. What's your strategy, Lap Traffic Fantasy? Are you going to diversify your picks to include some seasoned veterans and some possible sleepers for a strategic approach? Good luck this week with your picks, and we'll see who comes out on top next week. Well, Lap Traffic Nation, that is going to do it for a jammed-packed episode 340. Make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, all at Lap Traffic PC. Huge thank you to Dustin Albino from jski.com, Garrett Smithley, Isabella Robusto, and the doctor, Aaron Studwell, for coming on the show. We'll see what we can put together next week. I will be here next week. I can't miss recapping the 500. Don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya.